Hiya and welcome to the Write Yourself Up podcast. I am your host, Carla and in today's episode, we're going to chat all about heartbreak and how to get over someone. Hopefully, this episode is going to be a bit more lighthearted and more crack than last week's. I have had the worst week ever. I think maybe I've shared with you that the past 2 weeks have been shite, for want of a better word. Grief has hit me hard, and it's awful that we can see grief as such an inconvenience, that we're so conditioned by capitalism that we can't allow for unexpected waves to come. That causes more suffering, right, isn't it? Trying to keep to all the plans and the doing. And luckily, I was able to rearrange some things to allow for it. And I think I was, obviously, because you want to do this stuff, right? Isn't it? It's just, that's tough, isn't it? When you wanted to do all your plans and you don't get to, so there's a wee bit of around that. And then it's just really painful energy to be with. I'm going to put on another reminder. Family members, please don't listen to this. You're not going to be happy. Please don't listen. Turn it off right now if you're related to me in any way. And if you are going out with any of my family members or any link, don't be telling them what I'm saying, please. Thanks. So as today's episode is all about dating, I thought I'd share 2 wee stories with you to get us started. If you're new to listening to the podcast, I created an episode before saying, wear the fucking condom, because I am going to become a serial killer of men if I hear one more story from a woman about a man saying that, oh, I don't like wearing condoms, my dick can't stay hard, and blah, 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 blah. It really infuriates me for numerous reasons, and this isn't the topic today, but you all know the crack on that. And it's a sad thing that it's a rare thing that a man brings up the conversation of contraception and offers to put on a condom without a woman having to bring it up, because it's not solely the woman's responsibility not to get pregnant. It takes two to tango, and it should be shared responsibility, not on one person. And I recently did like a stupid reel. It was like a stupid like trending thing, and I did like an eye roll, and I said men who refuse to wear condoms and like an eye roll with it. Do you know what I mean? Like being like, it's fucking so infuriating. So that's what the TikTok is, if I'm not making sense. It's just me eye rolling in a rage, and it says men who refuse to wear condoms. And so that was grand, and I actually connected with the guy on Instagram, which never happens. This is the first time this has happened. And I don't really like it, because if I fancy someone or something, they have too much access to me on Instagram. Like, I'm too exposed. And also, that's not me. It's a business, and it's something I've created, and there's elements of me in it, but I don't know what way I come across. Because a previous person that I went out with, he said that I was so different to my Instagram. And I suppose it's just what people think about people who create Instagrams or accounts, isn't it? So my previous boyfriend was anti-Instagram, and I suppose then he thought all this stuff about me, that I was going to be a certain way. So that's why I like to hide my Instagram for as long as possible from someone that I fancy or dating. Anyway, me and this guy are having foreplay. I'm just going to play the story forward. And he says, will I put on a condom? And I said, you watched my reel? And he laughed. He said, I did. Or I said, you seen my reel or something like that? Because it was a very quick, it's like a 2-second reel. And I was like, that's the ticket. Just so, girls, if you're single and you're dating straight men, put it on your Instagram. I've decided, right, that I'm going to put on my Hinge. Biggest ick. Is there a question like that? Biggest ick is men who refuse to wear condoms. And I'll probably never get another like again. I should actually do it as an experiment, shouldn't I? And see if I get any feedback on it. There is some belters on Hinge in terms of comments. There's one guy, and he's very, very good looking, and he has on his saying the hallmark of a good relationship is pagan. And I was like, that is a ballsy move, a ballsy move. And what else funny I was seeing? I was also laughing, and I hope this doesn't offend anybody, but it's just a bit of humour from back in Belfast, from the north, is my friend messaged me to say she's only riding Protestants from now on. I just think sweeping statements like that are just so funny, or like making the differences. Maybe if you're Scottish too, you'll find that funny. It's just a bit of crack, isn't it, to say things like that? But also, what you could do too is just bring it up on the first date or second date. Is, do you know what really turns me? When men don't wear condoms, or men refuse to wear condoms. Just get it out of the way from the get go. So the other story I had was that I thought this was, I don't know what to think of it. I went to Hackney with saunas and ice baths, and this is the first time I've been since I moved back, I think. Because I can't really do saunas in London in the summer. It's hot enough here. You know what I mean? I love the cold water. And I hate being cold at the same time. But anyway, so doing the sauna, not looking my best, roasting red face, all that crack. Get talking to a fella, and then I think I was just like chilling in the sun, taking a breath in between like the ice bath and the sauna. And he was like, "Oh, can I sit beside you?" And I said, "Yeah." And we got chatting, and then he said, "What are you doing after?" I got a wee bit like tongue tied. I said, because you don't want to pause because it's rude. Well, maybe it isn't rude. Isn't that awful that I'm conditioned to think that I have to answer immediately? But it's because if I ask someone out, I would feel really vulnerable. And if they paused, I would think that they didn't want to go out with me. And I'd probably be like, "Oh, it doesn't matter." Anyway. So I didn't really pause that much, and I just went on my instinct reaction, which is, and I didn't have any plans, to be fair. And I said, "No, I don't have any plans." And he said, "Do you fancy getting food after?" And I said, "Yeah." And then afterwards, I was like, "Oh, I regret that. I should have said I had plans." You know, when you're just like second guessing yourself, because I literally like shared 2 sentences as well, like that, not that much. Anyway, I didn't even have a lick of mascara with me. So I was then being like, "Oh, for fuck's sake." My hair was even worse than what it is now. It was like soaking, scraped back, similar to what it is now. And we went for pizza. So it just shows you what can happen, and you can meet people in real life. And for me, I'm definitely someone, like, I think I've only ever met someone on a dance floor like twice who I've had a connection with, or like ended up going on a date with. Like, it never happens for me in sober environments. And in that type of environment, whether it's cold water swimming or, learning skills of movement, I'm definitely more myself and more open. Whereas with drink, I become more closed and quiet, which is weird, but we're all different, and learning where you feel your best is probably where you'll attract, hopefully, good people, right? Okay, let's get into heartbreak. And it's different. It's different, very different advice rather than compared to when someone dies. And it can be, it's compared often, right, in novels and films, the loss of someone who's still alive and the grief of that, and then the loss of someone who dies and the grief of that. And heartbreak is a rite of passage. I remember dating a guy, and I really liked him. And I asked him how many times has he had his heart broke. And he replied, "I haven't." And I was like, "Oh, for fuck's sake." I still went out with him for a few years now. I knew in that instance that we were never going to be, that this was never going to be a lifelong partner type of a thing. And I really liked him, so I was like, for fuck's sake. Because heartbreak is a rite of passage, and it all happens as all. And right enough, it didn't work out. And right enough, he did experience his first heartbreak. I'm not saying that was me. I'm not going into the timeline of things, but that's how the story ended. So it's a rite of passage. So if you're feeling it, know that it happens as all. There's no escaping it. And it teaches us so much about ourselves and our relationship to loss and our connection to ourselves. I said this was going to be a good crack episode, so let's get into my advice for getting over someone. Now, the advice I give, and it's very hard to action your own advice, by the way, but I'll share where the bits that I struggle with, but you really should do. Well, the first one is accept that it's over. There can be a period, right, isn't there, that we can really struggle to accept and we fight with the reality. And it's hard when you still love someone. You know, if someone breaks up with you or you really love them and you just didn't want the same things, that's the worst. That is the hardest heartbreak because you both still love each other, but you just have different desires in life. Like, it's so incredibly painful, so hard. And I think a mantra of I accept, I accept, I accept. I used to have that on my phone for, I think, just anything that I didn't want to happen in my life that happened. I really, really resisted it. And I think that's common experience, isn't it, that we share? I mean, a lot of the women I work with say the same. And it's just that accepting what's happened. And so that used to be my mantra for many years of I accept, because we live in this society now where we think we can have everything that we want and instantly. And then when things that we didn't order get delivered, we can throw a tantrum and have a mental breakdown. I know that I certainly did. And so it was that learning that you don't get everything you want and life doesn't go the way you want, and how you meet that. Having a mantra of I accept, journaling about that, and just that whole process and time that you really just have to accept that it's over. And of course, be grateful for the relationship, but know that nothing is forever anyway. And that relationship served you in some way. So I accept is my first piece of advice. Second is gratitude, which I've just said. So gratitude, give gratitude for the relationship, everything it taught you, all the experiences, high and low. And I know that doesn't apply if you were in a really abusive relationship. I'm talking about relationships that could have been a bit toxic. I mean, most relationships are a bit toxic. But I mean, this is just normal relationships where there wasn't domestic violence. This does not apply to that. But for all the relationships where there was no domestic violence or abuse, giving gratitude for the relationship and everything it taught you. And maybe that's the last step, really. I don't think I've done this in the right order. I think that maybe, like, if you're devastated about someone, like I'm talking proper heartbreak, that'll come in a few years. So I shouldn't have put that step number 2. Number 3. This is really important. You have to actively choose to let the person go. We can cling on, and I am stage 5 clinger. Now, I'm not that type of a person in a relationship, and I'm a very independent person. But if I love someone, I want to keep them in my life forever, and I really struggle with letting go. If you're someone who's abandoned as a child, you will probably struggle with letting go. I'm trying to think, do I know people? Because I don't think I've ever worked with a woman who was abandoned as a child and it's easy to cut people off. But maybe there could be that if you were abandoned, then you bolt. I'm not sure, but my experience, abandonment as a child manifests into finding it very difficult to let people go. But for me, this was really important in my big heartbreaks. And I see it so often in the women I work with and friends. And I think you just have to repeat that, you know, when you feel those thoughts of rumination and playing on your mind. And that's just normal. It just takes time to ease. But just repeating that, I let you go, I let you go, I let you go. And you can make it a practice if you're really struggling to, and I know my friends are listening to this being like, is she for fucking real? She's friends with all her exes. I'll get into that in a minute. In really moments of heartbreak, repeat these words. Thank you, I love you, I let you go. And that mantra can really help you accept that this person is no longer in your life, which is incredibly painful when you love someone. Even if you know that the breakup is right and you chose the breakup, it's still so hard. And when you didn't choose it, it's even harder. Yeah, so that's the next, it's accepting the reality of it. And that has to be a process in itself. And that means, right, so that means not following them on Instagram. Stop. Stop, 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 stop. Don't follow them on Instagram and don't allow them to follow you. If you're trying to get over someone, for me, I don't want to say their name because it just brings it all up. It's too much. And if you are doing that, ask yourself why. Because it is keeping you attached, it's keeping them on your mind. And I suppose it's different for everybody, because I know people who still followed each other for a while, but for me, if I was really heartbroken about someone, there's fucking no way. There's no way I'd be following them on Instagram and letting them follow me. Absolutely not. And maybe when I was younger, I definitely didn't do that step, but now that would be really important for me, and definitely the advice that I give, because it just allows them to come up in your mind and to keep that attachment and keeping the doors open, isn't it? It's such a good practice to truly let go, right? And in time, yes, of course, you can refollow each other once you know that they aren't still wanting back with you, or you aren't still wanting back with them. That's my 2 piece on that. And the whole don't contact them. No, 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 no. Ask yourself why you're contacting them, especially if you broke up with them. Oh, I just want to see how they are. No, you don't. I know you believe that's the reason why you're contacting them, but that's a lie. It is a lie. I've done it loads of times in my 20s, and I feel so bad, especially when I had broke up with them and knew that they wanted back with me. I think it was very selfish of me to contact them in hindsight, because it's to fill your need, right? There's something that you're missing them, or you're finding it hard, and so you want to have them, even though they're trying to process a really difficult thing by you not wanting to be with them. So really just sit with the discomfort of missing them and wanting to speak to them. And I know it's really hard, but it's not fair for you to contact them. It's really not. And if you're still in love with someone and you want back with them and you contact them, yeah, I mean, we all do it, like, but if you can, try not to, and be really kind to yourself if you do, in any shape or form, whether you're the one who broke up with them or not. Like, forgive yourself for being human and contacting them, but try not to in any way that you can. It just really helps the process of getting over them so much more if you're not in contact with them. And it's more difficult if you have shared friends, definitely, because that's fucking the worst. You trying to get over someone and they're in your friendship group. I don't know how you do it. I've never had that. I've always had where, like, we lived in different cities or something, or it hasn't been that bad in the initial breakup stages. And I think that God looks after you sometimes. I remember an ex of mine moved into my area, like around where I lived, and I never saw him. I think I saw him once, and I never ever see him. And I'm just like, see, God just spares you sometimes. And I think that if you do bump into an ex, I do think that that's the universe telling you something or wants you to feel something, because it's mad. Like, there's some people that you could live next door to and you never see them. And then on this particular day, you see them. It's crazy. It happened to me the day my granddad died. An ex of mine that, was very significant to me. I saw him the next day and hadn't seen him in years. Like, years and years, and it's just mad when those things happen, isn't it? So I went off the track there. So yeah, no texting them, no Instagram. It's not good for you. You're torturing yourself. Take care of your basic needs. So yeah, you have to make sure you eat, which can be difficult, because if you're hungry, if you're thirsty, it exacerbates everything, and it'll make how you're feeling even worse. Your immune system is weaker when you're sad, so you really need to take care of yourself. Rest loads. I mean, for some periods, you're going to have to keep super busy just to get through the immense devastation of the heartbreak. It's awful. See, this is why I think I'm like, do I want to fall in love again? It's the thoughts of it. It's just like, because you're putting yourself at that risk and vulnerability, and yet it is the sex of life. But, oh Jesus, heartbreak is fucking the worst. See, this is what happens to me. I had my heart locked up, and that's my natural setting, right? And then my heart be like, oh, open your heart, give it to someone, and then they break it, and then I fucking told yous, and then I lock it all back up again. I really admire people who can go from relationship to relationship. Now, I know it's not healthy, right? But I'm like, wow, like you're so willing to like risk heartbreak so many times. It blows my mind. I do think it's something to be respected and valued. Like they just open their heart and give their hearts so much. It's just not possible for me. Yeah, I would like to get better at that. Yeah, grief. I'm laughing because it's all I talk about, isn't it? The loss of what could have been, the pain you're experiencing. Crying releases toxicity from the body, so let it all go. Crying lowers stress hormones. The more you fight the grief, the more you suffer and stay stuck. So if you're feeling really stuck, maybe like I remember one time, this is probably one of my worst heartbreaks. And sometimes I'm a bit slow. So sometimes it's not immediately after the breakup that you grieve it. Like sometimes you distract yourself so much that it comes time down the road. Because I remember one time I was in therapy and I think I had a new boyfriend and stuff. And an ex came up in the session and I started bawling, crying. I was young. I was like in my late 20s. I didn't have a clue at that age. I'm not saying anyone in their late 20s doesn't have a clue. I'm saying I didn't have a clue. And I was like, what the fuck's this? Why am I crying? And the therapist was like, that's grief. And I was like, you what? Because the person was massive in my life and I did really miss him, even though I love somebody now. And yeah, I broke my heart that day. It's strange. Yeah, there was a lot of grief I hadn't processed from that relationship. And yeah, there was another time, which would probably be my biggest heartbreak. And I'm trying to think if it was straight after the breakup. It wasn't. I think it was like, it was one of those ones, you all know what I'm talking about, where you break up with someone and then you're still, and see, this is where I did all the advice. This is why I created this as a reminder to myself. Me and this person broke up, and of course I was messaging them and keeping contact and all that shit, doing everything I told you not to do. This is before I knew this advice, and this is why I'm giving it. So when I did do that, all the contact, obviously, I think we ended up sleeping together and stuff. And yeah, it was like the long goodbye. And maybe that's just the way it has to be sometimes. I think sometimes when someone's been such a huge part of your life, like I really admire someone who can do a clean cut. I've never been able to. So if you're one of those people, DM me and share your wisdom. I also have a theory. Sometimes it's the people who had two parents. You can't be clean cut. You weren't abandoned as a child sometimes, I think. But that's just a brat part of me. So it was really messy. So even though we were broke up months, there was still that contact. But I think it just really dawned on me that I loved him and it was never going to work. And I think I cried solid for a week. Honest to God. You swore he had died. I broke my heart a lot of the time. When we are going through a heartbreak, a breakup, it's a release for all the loss that you've experienced in your life that you haven't grieved before. So I definitely think, that breakup brought up a lot for me, and it was things that I'd never grieved. Could be grief over the relationship with mommy, grief that you lost your daddy, or like it could be so many things. And you don't have to like piece it together, but sometimes just remember that yes, you're heartbroken about this person, but it could be bringing up your whole relationship to loss and things that you've lost before. I don't mean things, people that you've lost before. I hope that makes sense. Because I definitely have seen that in other people where they're grieving a breakup and it's been an outlet for grief about like parents passing away or difficult childhoods that they've had, and it came out then in that breakup. Yeah, a breakup will definitely bring up a lot of old stuff. Pause. Be mindful around intense emotions. They want to call them, so I've already covered this a bit. The intense anger. Have a best friend you can text, call instead of an ex. It's always a good thing to do, and it's something I've often done. Ringing Holly or Rebecca and being like, oh my God, I want to text them so bad. And then they remind me of all the reasons why I shouldn't. And sometimes I still do it and sometimes I don't. So do that. Do that. And it's okay if you don't have the restraint sometimes. Write down how you're feeling, what you're ruminating on. Yeah, and give it a day. So if you're really thinking about texting someone, pause. Because if you're doing it impulsively, that's trauma energy. It's old childhood stuff. It's that impulse, it's that fear state. If you really should message them, it should be in a state of relaxation and laughing, because how often does that happen? I'm just thinking of me in my 20s. I'm definitely a lot better in my 30s than what I was in my 20s. Now, I still make mistakes and do stuff, but I definitely have a lot more tools and practices to help ease the craziness that can come with a heartbreak. I've said this before and I'll say it again. It is all about you. So this is linked to the texting and social media thing. So this is things that people tell me and that I've said in the past too, when they're like, oh, I want to text my ex. It's like, oh, I want to look out for them. I'm worried about them. And you're deflecting. It's a cover up. It's your emotions in a different disguise, being really sneaky to get what it wants. So you have to take the Halloween costume off to find out what the real drive is, what the need is for driving that want to reach out. And if you are worried about the person, then contact their family or friends. If you're worried about their mental health or addictions or those types of things, you're not the person to help them. You're not. You're probably going to make it worse for them. So please contact their friends and family if that is the case and there is genuine concern for that person's safety. However, if you're just wanting to know if they got a new job or X, Y, and Z, don't. If you really want to know some information on how someone is, ask a friend of theirs. I'm just going to repeat that because that's what it says in the text. If you are worried, text a friend of theirs. Remember, it is always about you. Underneath your worry about that other person, it is a need of yours trying to be met. So you have to do a wee bit of a deeper dive on that. And people can be like, no, that is the reason. And I'm like, it's not. It's definitely not. There's something in your unconscious that's driving that. If you can't trust yourself, do not drink and dial. Take whatever measures necessary. Don't drink. So take whatever measures you got to do. If you're going to drink and dial, don't drink or don't bring your phone out. Have safety measures in place. Do what you got to do, right? I don't delete all my access numbers, by the way, but if I was cracked on someone and really struggling to get over them, I would absolutely have that number deleted out of my phone. And if you're like, oh, I can't do that, you're being attached and you have to learn to let go. But it'll take time. If you can't do it straight away, that's fair enough. But I suppose that one's only if you're really hurting and wanting them back. I'm going to repeat myself here because I've already went off on tangents to this, is stop the self-harm. Block them on social media and their friends if you had to. I remember I had to block a few friends or hide them of my exes because my heart sank every time I seen their face in a picture, and I actually can feel that feeling again, even thinking about it. It just made me spiral, and it made me think about them and wonder what they were doing and, who they're with and all that. And then people say, oh, that'll show that I'm hurting. You are hurting. Let go of that ego that has to pretend that you're sweet with everything when you're not. Please let that die. It does not serve you or anybody else. I definitely was like that in my early 20s. I don't want to let on that I'm hurt. Just this real resistance to ever showing a vulnerability and wanting to pretend I was this hard woman who couldn't be touched. Tell the truth. Why are you pretending that something's not hurting you when it is? And you care what their friends are going to think? I'm sure they'll understand. Everybody goes through this, or they will understand in time why you had to delete them, why you had to hide them. What people will think can also just be an excuse to keep doing it. I'm just going to read what it says in the post. Stop stalking your exes, their friends, their new or ex's partners on social media immediately. It's really not good for you. I mean, we all want to nosy sometimes, but if you're finding you're checking them every day and all that crack, no. Get them blocked, get them deleted, do something. And it's a nice sign when you realise you don't have that urge to check, or you realise, fuck, I haven't looked at their Instagram in years. Such a nice feeling. suppose that's when you know it's a good marker, isn't it? To know that you're finally getting better or over someone, that, you know, isn't that constant thought on your mind to stalk them. This is the last one, but it says, remember, everything happens for a reason. That's not true. Shite things happen and should never have happened. But to a degree, most of the time, yeah, I think that, like, not relationships where there's domestic violence, no one deserves that. Not where horrible things have happened to you, no one deserves that. But other relationships, even if they cheated on you, not the gross levels, by the way, but even if you were hurt or you cheated on them and they cheated on you, every relationship you attract is to help you heal any barriers you have to love. And that's the quote from Rumi. You will attract all your barriers to love. And what I mean by that is the barriers to your self-love. Because when we don't really love ourselves and value ourselves and know our worth, we can get really lost in a relationship. I think that you can have periods of your life where you're really steeped in your own love, and then things can happen and you lose that sense of that. And breakups are definitely a period where you're trying to, or you're feeling lower normally in self-love, aren't we? And you're trying to build that up again. And yeah, just like reflect on where you didn't communicate your needs or ask for them to be met in any way that you lost yourself, and the things that you learned from the relationship. I'm laughing because me and this relationship ended, and my teacher, who was a meditation teacher, he said to me, "Oh, well, what did you learn about yourself in that relationship?" And I was fucking raging. I was like, don't ask me to reflect on that. I was like, I just wanted to bury it and move on. But yeah, it's really important so that we don't repeat the same shit, right? And ask ourselves, you know, what would I have done differently? How do I want to show up differently in the next relationship? What did I put up with that I never want to put up with again? I wish I could give you big hugs. I mean, I have never heard of so many breakups in my days right now. There's something in the air. I mean, I think half this course and the wave effect, I think half the women are going through like big breakups, like 10-year relationship stuff. And then loads of my clients, loads of people I know, it's just something in the air. And I wish I could give you the biggest hug because it's awful. It's really terrible. I can't sugarcoat it. It's one of the worst experiences of your life. Time is a healer. You know, there's been people I was like, I'll never get over him. And you do. You do. It just takes time. It can take years. It can take years sometime. I know it's not what you want to hear, right? But it's true. And I remember being really heartbroken before, and friends trying to hurry me up, you know, because they were like, oh, you know, it wasn't that good a relationship. Why are you still devastated about that? And I wasn't harping on about him. I just like never moved on, like went out with someone new or anything. And I wasn't dating, and I was still living my life. It wasn't like I was still crying in bed, but I think the way I talked about it, and they could see that I still held a lot of love for him. And I think maybe that was difficult for them to witness. On reflection, I think I'll know better how to handle that when it comes again of people trying to rush me. I mean, it's different if I was in bed crying all the time. Yeah, maybe you would say, right? But if people are just taking their time to enter new relationships, and you know what'll happen, don't let people rush you. That would be my other parting words. I think I've rambled for enough, haven't I? It was an eclipse yesterday, so a lot of heavy, dark energy. So hope you're taking good care of yourself. I hope you're having a lovely day on whatever day you're listening to this. I'd love to hear from you. I'd really love if you left me a review. Really love that if you could do it. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed. I hope I made sense. Send loads of love, loads of kisses, and big tight hugs.